Holidays are coming.
Holidays are coming.
Holidays are coming.
Holidays are coming.
Holidays are coming. Holidays are coming.
Coming to your town. 'Tis the season for chestnuts roasting over an open fire, a nice warm mug of hot chocolate, and of course, an ice-cold bottle of Coke.
Wait, what? Why would you want a Coke in winter? What does that have to do with the holidays?
Yeah, for a long time, that's exactly what people thought. The Coke was best for summer because it's cold. So they started making these really cool campaigns to make them relevant in winter.
And the trucks came over the hill.
Specifically for the holidays. And I think they did way better than they ever expected. And they're most known for their version of Santa Claus.
What do you mean their version? You know, I heard somewhere that Coke invented Santa Claus.
Coke didn't invent Santa, but they used him so consistently that a lot of people might even think that they did. Well, you could say they helped popularize a very specific version of Santa, just from pure consistency, using that character so often that we might even associate one with the other. Or possibly you had no idea Coke had a connection with Santa at all. In which case, let me take you down a very specific road of art history in advertising, because there's a lot to find down that path.
You do like to take those hyper-specific art history paths that no one ever asked for, that's for sure.
It all started 100 years ago. The Coke was making Santa advertisements for magazines and billboards. But he didn't always look the way we know him today. It took them a couple tries to come up with that design. In 1920, he was strict looking, and a lot like the design made by Thomas Nast. He's the real inventor of the modern Santa. In 1881, he made that Santa design as a pro-Union Civil War era comic. I could honestly make a whole other video just on Thomas Nast. That version of Santa was based on the 1822 Clement Clarke Moore poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, or more commonly known as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. He was described as a jolly old elf dressed in fur and sporting a white beard. This very literally led to every other modern Santa we know today. Before this, every Santa seemed to look different from each other. But back to Coke.
Right. Almost forgot we're supposed to be talking about a soda company. For reasons.
Coke tried again in 1930 with another strict-looking Santa at a department store, which didn't get that feeling of Santa that we're used to now. It was more like a man dressed as Santa. What would come next, though, is the canon Coca Cola Santa.
Ah yes, the Santa from the Coca Cola universe. It matters a lot to have only one canon Santa from there.
A year later, in 1931, they hired a freelance artist, Haddon Sunbloom, who oil-painted a jolly, rosy-faced Santa that was very popular. So popular that they commissioned him to make another Santa painting with that exact character every year from 1931 through 1964 because of how popular they were. And even after 1964, pretty much all Coke Santa ads were done in the same style as Sunbloom Santas.
That's a lot of paintings of Santa.
One thing we need to remember is this all started in the 1930s, during the Depression. And all traditional artists know how expensive it is to get art supplies, especially oil paint. And in a lot of ways, the most expensive parts are the paint and the canvas. Sunbloom was a smart, thrifty guy. So on the third year of making his Santa Claus series, he actually painted over the original one to create the now slightly altered one to save on cost. He took the original and expanded it out on all sides, changed the position of the arm to hold a whip for the reindeer, and put a hat on him. So in a way, it's two paintings now.
Oh, it's like one of those hologram pictures that are more than one depending on the angle you look at it. They should do that. Look a little to the left, first Santa. A little to the right, third Santa. I wonder if the second Santa feels left out, since it was on its own canvas.
In the beginning, Sunbloom used a live model to make these Santas, his next-door neighbor and friend, Lou Prentice, a retired salesman, and they did this until Prentice passed away several years later. After that, he started painting with a new model, himself. He'd paint his own reflection for reference, which led to a funny mistake of painting Santa's buckle backwards once. That might be the reason why he switched to using photos of himself as reference instead. See, nothing wrong with using references to make your art.
Reminds me of Karen from Mean Girls making her K for prom in the mirror.
They never anticipated how popular this series of Santas would be, and they call it a beautiful accident. They are some of the most prized pieces of artwork in the permanent gallery exhibit at the World of Coke. So when you think of Santa from Coke, you're probably thinking of one of the many ones from him, and a lot of them still get used in advertisements and collectibles today. Santa wasn't alone, though. In 1942, Santa got an elf sidekick named Sprite Boy.
Sprite Boy? Sounds like a lame superhero sidekick. Holy snowflake, Santa, this chimney is too small.
And if the name makes you think of Sprite the drink, it might shock you to know that the Sprite Boy predated Sprite by about 20 years. Since Sprite wasn't invented until the 1960s, in Germany by Coke to compete with 7-Up. Sprite Boy was also designed by Sunbloom. He was an elf character who showed up in Santa ads, but only his head and hands ever showed for some reason, and eventually on ads on his own.
There's nothing like a Coca Cola, nothing like a Coke.
As the official mascot, convincing people that Coca Cola meant Coke, and Coke meant Coca Cola, as their new shorter nickname. Just an ad saying, remember, Coke means Coca Cola. Weird to think about this, that it wasn't being called Coke yet. At this point, most of us use them interchangeably, so that campaign must have worked.
Right, because the mascot of an elf really makes you think about calling Coca-Cola a Coke, especially if the elf has no body.
He was named Sprite Boy because it was meant to be a synonym for a fairy or nymph, elf-like character. Funny how now if you hear Sprite, you think of the drink before you think of fairy tale creatures? It became more popular than the namesake by far. Sprite Boy was usually painted with a hat, either a soda jerk hat or bottle cap hat.
That bottle cap hat would make way more sense if he was actually the size of an elf. That bottle cap is way too small to be a hat. It's not like Hey Arnold or something.
Sprite Boy was actually pretty popular, but he was phased out by ads by 1958, but still shows up in merchandise for collectors. It was 3 years later when Sprite the drink was introduced.
They used a mascot that they killed on purpose, even though it was popular, to name their new drink 3 years later. All right, whatever.
Sometimes Coke would choose to collaborate with a pre-existing IP to make a new campaign. Just like their inspired choice in 1965 to commission an animated TV special, A Charlie Brown Christmas. Not just sponsored by, but commissioned. Meaning, if it wasn't for Coke, that TV special, and actually a few others, may never have existed. And this is a Christmas classic. You can see the original cut of the special with Coke in the credits, and on a sign that they crash into. It's since then been edited out, probably so it doesn't just seem like a big ad for Coca-Cola forever.
Nothing says Christmas like capitalism.
This is my second food-related art history video, and it's the second to include Charlie Brown in some way, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
If I had a nickel for every time I was doomed by a puppet, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Fast forward to the 90s, and a few new Christmas Cola mascots appear. Okay, actually, not so new, because the first one actually was introduced in a print ad in 1922 in France, and would show up sporadically for the next 70 years in print ads.
I think you have your time travel skills a little mixed up. The 90s were way after the 20s. I think we started there.
But it's brought back in a big way in 1993, the CGI Coke Polar Bears, a personal favorite of mine. This was a time where CGI animation was still very new, so it was on the cutting edge of technology to have a series of CGI polar bears who love Coca-Cola. I'm an animation nerd.
We know.
So I, of course, love the polar bears most. And they were also the ones I saw the most as a kid. So they have a lot of warm feelings and nostalgia for me personally. The original animated commercial featured the polar bears going to see the Northern Lights like it was a movie, while they have a bottle of Coke. It was so popular that the polar bears became a year-round mascot for a long time. Not just the holidays. They asked Ken Stewart to create this commercial, and he modeled the bear's movements after his own Labrador Retriever puppy, who he thought resembled a polar bear. Here's a quote from him. "That's really what we were trying to do, to create a character that's innocent, fun, and reflects the best attributes we like to call human," said Mr. Stewart. "The bears are cute, mischievous, playful, and filled with fun." There have been several other TV spots since the original 1993 Northern Lights special, featuring the CGI polar bears. including two for the 1994 Olympic Games, where the Bears slid down a luge and soared off a ski jump. Each ad took 12 weeks to produce from start to finish. Not all Christmas Coke mascots were people or animals, though. In fact, strangely enough, one of the most well-known is the Caravans, a fleet of Coca Cola trucks in 1995 in the Holidays Are Coming campaign. The special effects for this ad were created by George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic studio. It turned out to be the most successful Christmas campaign for Coke, and it was brought back several times. But of course, Santa, based on the Sunbloom Santas, is still in this ad too, sipping a Coke on the back of the trucks.
Of course, gotta include one of those Santas or you might not know it's Christmas.
So, Coke had a pretty famous annual holiday campaign with this really cool past of working with artists and cutting-edge technology for these amazing handcrafted and over-the-top popular paintings, print ads, and TV commercials. Something that holds a lot of nostalgia and warm feelings for many of us.
Cutting-edge technology, huh?
Yeah, like the CGI polar bears. That seems normal now, but back then that was really new.
Oh, like AI is now?
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Did you hear about that?
About what?
The Coke made AI commercials this year, with pretty much everything you talked about here. The polar bears, the caravans.
Wait, what?
Holidays refreshments what we bring. 'Tis the season, it's always a real thing.
Oh, have you seen it yet?
Holidays are coming, 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 holidays are coming.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Lexi has left for some unexplained reason, so I'm the star of the rest of this video. So subscribe to the channel. I can be very influential. I'm like the mascot of this channel, but unlike Santa, there's only one of me. What do you guys think of all this Coca Cola holiday stuff? To me, it's all a little bit overhyped, but some of the art was actually kind of cool. And this new AI commercial. I mean, it could be worse, right?
They could have hired artists, though.
Anyway, I think I'm on the video here. So see you next time. Bye, guys.